Today is Wednesday, October 13th, 2010, and I am interviewing Robert Trexler. Mr. Trexler is 64 years old. He was born on September 6, 1946. My name is Peyton Trexler, and I'll be the interviewer. Robert Trexler is my grandpa. Grandpa, could you state for the recording what war and branch of service you served in?
It was the Vietnam War, and I served in the United States Navy.
What was your rank?
I was an E4.
Where did you serve?
I served in, I took boot camp at Great Lakes Naval Training Center, and I went to a communications school in Pensacola, Florida. Then I served in Kamasai, Japan, and South Vietnam.
How many years were you in the service?
A little over 3 years.
How did you happen to serve in this war?
When I graduated from high school, I was not going to attend college, so there was what was called a draft at that time, and I was either going to be drafted into one of the branches of the different militaries in the U.S., or I could pick one to join.
Where were you living at the time?
My family lived in Peru, Indiana.
What were you doing before you were drafted or enlisted?
I worked at Indiana Bell Telephone in Peru, Indiana.
Did anyone else in your family serve in the military?
I was only sibling of my parents, but my real father served in the Navy, and my stepdad served in the Marine Corps.
Can you tell me about adapting to military life?
I thought it was rather easy, very organized, very disciplined, and if you could follow directions, it was a rewarding life.
How did you choose the branch of service you served in?
I chose the Navy because of not wanting to be out in the field, sleeping on a wet ground or in a tent or something of that nature, and I knew that if I was in the Navy, I would always be on a land base somewhere or on a ship, and I chose that for the convenience of it and to have 3 good square meals every day.
What kind of training did you have?
I went to Pensacola, Florida to take what they call communication technician school. I had to pass a preliminary 6-week course of how to operate a KW-37, which is a crypto machine that encrypted and decrypted messages to be sent over the airways to direct our troops and the different orders that were received around the world. And then I had to wait 4 weeks to get what's called a security clearance to handle very sensitive material for the people that I served with.
Did you form any friendships while you were in the military?
Of course, there's a lot of bonding in there with different men.
Actions or duties away from the front line?
There was a lot of duty in the front line. I was stationed in South Vietnam of the 3rd Marine Amphibious Force base there. That was the control center for all Marine Forces South Vietnam. The general there was General Cushman. I served as his communications technician and encrypted and decrypted all of his messages that came from the Naval Security Group, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Secretary of the Navy, and the President of the United States.
How did you stay in touch with those back home?
At that time, in those years, which has been some over 40 years ago, the only real way to keep in touch was letter writing.
What did you do for recreation off-duty activities?
Well, in Japan it was different, but in South Vietnam there was no recreation. From 2 days after we got there, we worked 8 hours on and 8 hours off in a continuous cycle, never stopping until we were released from active duty down there.
Were you still overseas when the war ended?
No. I came back home and the war ended almost 3 years after I was discharged from the Navy.
Where were you?
I was back home in Peru, Indiana when that happened.
How did you return home?
I returned home the same way I got there. We flew from Chicago to San Francisco to Honolulu, Honolulu to Japan, and returned the same way by air.
Reception by family or community?
Say that again.
Reception by family or community?
The community reception wasn't good when we got back to California. As you'll read in history, that there was great controversy about the Vietnam War, and many of what was known as the hippie clan did not receive the armed forces well when we got back, but we were received well by our family and friends when we got to our final destination of home.
How hard was it to return to civilian life?
It was very easy returning to civilian life.
Are you a member of any veterans organizations?
No, I am. Being that I am a veteran and served in a war zone, I do have military benefits. Because of my age, I'm entitled to the medical benefits that the Veterans Administration offers, and I take advantage of that.
Have you had any contact with fellow veterans?
None that I actually served with, but now that I've been discharged and been out for a great number of years, there are others that served at almost the same time I did and in some of the same places.
How has being in the military affected your life?
There's no regret at all. I'm glad I did it. It was something that I think in our generation and the generations before us felt a responsibility to do.
Did you learn any lessons while you were in the Navy?
Many good lessons of discipline and the chain of command as far as authority, organization.
Thank you for letting me interview you.
Will I be paid for this?
No.
Thank you.